AUB has been holding online exams in Moodle since 2005, when pioneering professors such as Dr. Marcus Mark Tanner and Dr. Munib Eid recognized the time-saving and other benefits of the technology. Professor Eid has become a great advocate of online exams, particularly in large enrollment classes, and has inspired several colleagues in his department to try them as well. One of them is the next presenter, Dr. Samih Isber, who will discuss how he has been using the online exam reports generated by Moodle to assess and improve his students' learning. So I present to you Dr. Samih.
Good afternoon. This talk will be actually about my recent experience with Moodle examination. The technique itself, it relies on a valid and reliable Moodle tools that we have in here to measure student achievement. And it does actually ensure proper measure giving to all elements of a course study through objective as well as subjective questions. And I believe it's as valid as paper printed exams. Now, the first question is why to use Moodle examination? Obviously, there are several advantages. There are disadvantages, obviously, and one has to try to compromise or try to balance or minimize basically the disadvantages. One of them is obviously in large classes, you won't have basically 140 copies to correct. Instead, basically, the student will directly submit their answer, they sit for the exam on the computer. And this is basically one of the important considerations in large classes. Another advantage of using Moodle examination is the multi-version exams. Then can be easily generated. In particular, if, for example, in science courses, you know, we have calculation and numbers, etc. So one can keep one of the parameters in a problem as a floating, and then at the end generate basically random or many numerical value for different student. For every student, a numerical value. So the student will have different, basically, numerical value. Also, one can use the shuffling of questions and answers order in order, basically, to have a different version. Obviously, this may limit or will help limit cheating attempts. As an example here, this is a question. This is how basically the student will. This is how the student basically will see the question, and in here I keep one of the parameters m as floating, and that m will be generated as a numerical value at a later stage. Also, among the advantages is students will get their grades as soon as they finish the exam. And this is less frustrating for students and for instructors, sometimes especially when you have exams during advising period or you have experiment in the lab running, etc. And it is more reliably scored than paper printed exam. No room for a human error. And sometimes, you know, when you dealing with subjective questions, you try basically to correct as fairly as possible, but you're never sure after correcting 60, 100 basically copy exam if this student deserve one or one grade more or one grade less. Also, Moodle exams are environment friendly. No paper, no inks, no cost. And for example, in 140 students, we have 2 quizzes, 1 final. Think of how many papers we're going to use for one semester. Then we have the support. I mean, as we have a great support from ACC. Training session for faculty can be basically delivered in the office. You don't have to go, you don't have to come. So the ACC are willing to support you basically in the office. We have available resources and easy access, such as several computer room. I cite, for example, a Bliss 203 that can accommodate 114 students, the scientific research building, computer lab in the Faculty of Engineering, 180 PCs. And room reservation, for example, is accessible online. So you don't have really to work harder in the case of preparing a Moodle examination. More importantly than all of this, actually, is that also this technique helps you in reflecting on the student performance and basically the learning outcome of students. So the class answers, for example, on every question will be available in digital form, okay, and accessible. You can analyze these data. Will help the instructor to reflect on student performances. So you will see basically the answer of the class on every questions, and you will look at the average of these answers. For example, here I have a diagram showing the correct response as function of the number of of question number, and you look that I have selected basically an area of concern. Why did the student basically score less on this particular question or on this particular concept than the others? So one may basically try to see what's going on here. Maybe I missed to give the concept properly. Maybe they didn't get it because I should basically emphasize it better, more, etc. So you can get back and revisit basically the concept missing or lost. Here is another example, actually. Again, you can basically look that we have some concern, area of concern here. So what I do, basically, I look at these questions. What are they? Why didn't the students score or do well in them? And then we can discuss it again in class. Now, initially, obviously, the preparation of such exams or the use of such technique is a bit difficult, but it's like anything you try for the first time, a bit difficult, then you get used to it and it becomes basically as easy as probably a printed paper exam. And I checked on the basically AUB side. There are several departments, several faculty using Moodle examination, but not as many as basically I expected. Computer science, economics are using it heavily, actually physics, engineering, OSB, Alliance School of Business, and so on. Now, what type of items we have on Moodle? Obviously, we have two categories, objective, subjective, multiple choices in the case of objective, true or false completion, like fill in the blank, calculated, descriptive, and so on. So you can select basically various items in this Moodle examination. What are, again, advantages, for example, of multiple choice? You can alternate between various options. One correct answer only, for example, or sometimes you give all the above, none of the above, answer A, B, C are correct, and so on. Also, again, more reliably scored than subjective questions. Diverse response options sometimes can supply indicative feedback. Why did the student answer wrongly this particular answer? Okay, that can basically also give some indication. Disadvantages, obviously, there are disadvantages, cannot be used to measure outcomes requiring skill performance. Okay, when, for example, say at higher level courses where basically the student have to apply the law and solve, and long, basically way before he gives or he estimate or he give a number. Okay, obviously this will not be a good measure. However, this can be compensated through calculated and descriptive type. I'll show this in a minute. Now, again, student feels less comfortable, efficient in the case when they read from a screen rather than a paper printed one. I myself feel like giving 5 to 10 extra minutes for an exam, Moodle exam, will be probably justified. In here, I give the example of a calculated problem whereby basically I try here to measure the ability of students to apply and quantify a certain physical law. Obviously, the issue is you have to make sure that the problems require 1-2 steps of calculation and no more. And then the student basically will have a blank place that he can insert his answer. Descriptive questions, they consist of a sequence of questions linked to several concepts but can be solved separately. So you don't want to give student A, B, C, and then if he misses part A, he will miss the whole thing. No, so one has to be careful and try to make the questions that even if the student did not score on A, he will have the chance basically to score on B or C and so on. So in here also, I'm giving, for example, an example for a freshman student, okay, whereby I consider the system first, then I introduce another, in here basically it's a system with conservative forces acting only, whereby in the second part you have non-conservative forces. So if he solved part A wrong, okay, he can still basically get part B right, and so on. So this is an important consideration, in particular for the skilled measurement. In here, for example, I give 3 questions about this problem, and again, he can score on this without being right on the first. Format of the Moodle examination, I personally believe that it has to contain all type, multiple choice, solving, and description problem. Then, initially, to conclude, actually, I'm sure this will help you to save time, basically, and evaluation-wise, you will be evaluating student fairly, and on top of that, we will be having the possibility to reflect on why the student did not, or why the student missed this or that concept. Initially, I was reluctant until my colleague, actually Dr. Eid, introduced me to the technique, and then now I'm confident that this technique is very valid, okay, and very helpful for the instructor. Finally, I'd like to acknowledge the ACC actually staff members and the Faculty of Arts and Sciences Smart Room Unit, Faculty of Engineering and Agriculture. We have Wissam, Maher, Amir, Hadi, Basil, Kamal, Miati. Thank you very much for your attention.